Hello and welcome everyone to the live stream. I'm your host Stefan Burns, geophysicist, geologist, space weather guy, cosmic bro, someone who's interested in what's actually happening here on Earth. So I look at a variety of things. For example, space weather, solar activity, what's happening here on Earth energetically, earthquakes, volcanoes. We also look at cycles. The world is constructed of cycles. Reality is just cycles within cycles within cycles, nested together, constructive, deconstructive, all of them just forming a greater order and also chaos. And well, there is a 2,600 year cycle right now that is coming to an end. This is something that I've been tracking, and it's also something that I have talked a little bit about before on the channel, but we really now have confirmation of that today. And so we're going to talk about this 2,600 year cycle, talk about the history, the data, the supportive evidence, all that, and then we'll forecast a little bit going forward, but that's really going to be up for you to decide. I'm going to provide you all the historic data, really show you that there's something happening here. And then from there, you can make up your mind. So the big news today, if you are living under a rock and you didn't know, is that, let me get it out here. Silver is up 10% today. And this is interesting, silver being one of the base monetary metals. It's actual money in the truest sense. It's been used as money since about 600 BC. So that's 2,600 years. So clearly this 2,600 year cycle is connected to silver, it's connected to gold, it's connected to our entire financial system. But this is really a history lesson more than just a video on silver, but silver is really showing us that something is here because we can put the data together. So let us jump right into it. What happens is that we have our solar system. We have planets that are orbiting around the sun, and they go through a full 360 degrees. So we can track this a variety of ways. We can look at it in terms of their placement in the constellations. That's true sky. We can also track their positioning in a more local reference frame. Remember, the constellations are always moving, shifting, there's precession, all this stuff. We can track them in a more local way by measuring from our equinox and solstice points. So equinox is the same time every year because that is an angle generated by the placement of Earth's tilt axis relative to the sun. So when Earth's tilt axis is perpendicular to the sun, you have equal day and night. When it's parallel to the sun-Earth axis and the Earth is tilted towards the sun, either way, then you have the longest day of the year and then also the shortest day of the year, depending on which hemisphere you're on. So this is another way to track your movement through the solar system because these are based off of the precise tilt angle in relation to the sun-Earth axis. So this is independent of the constellations. They're close to each other, but they do drift about 1 degree every 72 years. So let us first look at our silver price chart because you'll see what I'm talking about when I'm talking about like this big cycle. So here we go. We have TradingView here. We see that silver and this is not just a video on silver, by the way, and this is also, none of this is financial advice. This is just data. We are looking at data to understand what may be occurring going forward for us. Because again, this goes back 2,600 years. This goes back to the birth of the Roman Empire, or actually the Roman Republic. 600 BC, it's roughly when the Romans founded their republic, when Rome, became a capital city. And then from there, well, things progressed quite a lot. So we see, though, that silver is up 10% today. And we can zoom in on this. And there's been just a flurry of interest in it. It's really been incredible, as you see right there. That's what it's been doing today. But let's zoom out to probably our 1 month view. That'll probably give us a good view of this. Look at this. Here, oh, just hit my camera. Yeah, wake up. Wake up. Here we have a really striking pattern. If you know technical analysis, this is a cup and handle. And this is one of the absolute best technical analysis patterns that you can get. Every single time I've seen a cup and handle pattern play out like this, it's money every single time. We've seen this with Bitcoin. We've seen this with gold. We just recently saw gold break out of its cup and handle and then just explode to the upside, right? Silver's at all-time highs. Gold at all-time highs. This is a story as to what does money actually mean? How do we transfer value in between each other? Because it's clearly not the fiat system where they just inflate everything away. Our civilization using the fiat money is built upon greed, right? This is not a higher consciousness expression of humanity. So we have this pattern that's basically about 45, 50 years here. This is a massive pattern because again, it's going back to 1980. We have 2011 and we have 2025 right here. So we have 3 dates effectively, right? We can look at 1979 to 1981. We can look at 2010 to 2011, and we can look at what's happening right now. Okay, well, we talked about the planets earlier. Where were the planets during these 3 points in time? Well, they are where Saturn and Neptune are right now, effectively, or oppositional angles. We have right now a Saturn-Neptune conjunction occurring in the sky. Let me show you what this looks like with solar system scope, an application that shows us the relative position of the planets. They are not to scale, but they are accurate in their distance from the sun and in their geometry. And people that watch the channel here regularly, you know, I use this all the time, looking at the different planetary geometries. Look right here. We have Saturn and Neptune conjunct. That's a 1 in 35 to 37 year cycle. They actually went exactly conjunct heliocentrically on December 13th. I believe it's the 12th, the 13th, the 14th. That time frame, they were exactly conjunct. So you don't get that that often. Now, geocentrically, we see that they are not conjunct. That is going to happen in February. If we go forward here to about February 20th, we see that they go conjunct geocentrically. And then if you go forward to March 21st or so, this is when we have our spring equinox. And Earth's tilt angle is like that. And so each side of the Earth gets equal day, equal night. Okay, so that's our 0 degree mark. If we want to create a circle in our solar system here, let's actually set it even up over here. This can be 0 degrees and then we can do a full 360 around, okay? Well, that angle that they're meeting up in February right here is that 0 degree mark. So it's the very first degree of what we call the zodiac, because that's what the zodiac is. You can abstract, you can look at all the abstract stuff with astrology if you want, but you can also just look at degree angles. And if you look at this from a perspective of, okay, these massive planets, which are full of energy and information, having some influence over the morphic resonance energy field of our solar system, how does that affect us, being much tinier fragments of consciousness than they are, right? They are governing the larger flows of energy, info, and consciousness. We're just bubbles on that ocean tide. How does that influence us? Okay. Well, this 0 degree mark is significant because it's the equinox, the spring equinox. It's the beginning of the whole year in that regard. So it's seen as an initiation beginning point. Now, what is interesting about that is that we've had similar activity at that degree point across time. but it's not that common. It's pretty rare to get activity at, you could say, 0 degrees of Aries. This is the zodiac system, not true sky constellations. You see that this is happening in the constellation of Pisces. But we're interested here in the local reference frame of the solar system, not in the constellations, okay? That's a totally different story. It's not what we're talking about today. We're interested in the local degree reference frames. If we hypothesize, if these different degrees hold specific imprints of information and consciousness, then when these planets align to those degrees and the Earth is involved, there should be significant changes that unfold. Well, the last time we had a big conjunction between Neptune and Saturn right in this range of 0 degrees of Aries was 594 BC. That is around the creation of the first coins. We also had a conjunction at this degree point here back in 2010. So let's check it out. We can take we can grab Jupiter here and go back in time to 2010. And we're going to look at these degrees, but right now we're just interested in seeing the actual conjunction. And there we go. Go forward a little bit. Right there, you see June 2nd, 2010. It's actually June 8th is when this was exact geocentrically. This is a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, and that occurred at 0 degrees of Aries. There were also 2 more that occurred, September 18th of 2010 and also January 4th of 2011 that occurred in the later degrees of Pisces. Again, zodiac system, not true sky, okay? Well, let's go back here really quick. We just said 2010, 2011, right? Well, let's check out what happened with the price of silver in 2010. So here we can see, and let's switch this to the weekly view. And see what we get. There we go. Here we see this big run up. That was August, starting basically the beginning of August of 2010. And it went all the way till actually May of 2011. Those dates again were June 8th of 2010 for the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries. Then they also met up in the late degrees of Pisces, September 18th, 2010, January 4th, 2011. So exactly on the beginning of this, so right here, right before this went nuts, we had this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction occurring at 0 degrees. And then we had 2 more that took it all the way through this entire rally. If we go over to our current time frame, we have this Saturn-Neptune conjunction occurring at 0 degrees of Aries in February of 2026. And they had a near conjunction at 2 degrees of Aries, only 13 arc minutes apart, back in, I believe it was July, like July 15th or something like that. Very close to July 15th of 2025 of this year. Well, let's look at our data here. Here we see June, right? There's June. And here we see August, right before this started going up. They almost went conjunct, and well, it's not February of 2026 yet. But we have 2 examples here, right off the bat, of how silvers reacted to big outer planets being in that 0 to 2 degree range of Aries, the zodiac, okay? Again, we're using this just as a degree positioning system. We can look at this now. Here we have 211 BC. This is the minting of the denarius, the first official silver coin. Back in 594, you had the first coins being made. These are made out of electrum. We'll talk about that. But the Roman Republic, they started to get some money. They started to do pretty well for themselves. And, you know, the Roman Empire, that's a little bit further down the road, but the Roman Republic in 211 BC is doing quite well. They're now able to actually start making proper coins with the exact same amount of silver, refined, stamped, everything. That occurred 2011 BC. So I'm looking into this because I was like, okay, I wonder if silver, like what's the birth chart of silver? I'm thinking like, what's the birth chart of silver? Well, it's like, well, let's find out the first silver coins, like official silver coins. That's the denarius. I cast a chart for roughly the first minting of 211 BC. And well, lo and behold, turns out there's a Saturn-Uranus opposition at that time, 211 BC. Saturn-Uranus cycles are about 44 to 46 years in length. So they're fairly infrequent because their orbital periods are pretty close together. Saturn 28.5 years, Uranus being 84. So it takes them a little longer. You know, Uranus isn't so slow that Saturn can catch up to it. Uranus is still moving as Saturn is trying to catch up. So that's what it takes 44, 46 years. Look at this. We have Saturn there. And I cast this chart for this opposition exactly because I don't know the exact day and time of the minting of the first denarius, right? I don't think anyone probably knows that. But I saw that this opposition was active. I was like, okay, well, that's our big event. So let's cast a chart for that. And it's the same year. As you go further back in time, the date ranges start to get a little fuzzy, and these are broader strokes that we're looking at, whereas the most recent 3 spikes in silver, 1980, 2011, and what's happening right now, we can look at very precisely, okay? So here we have 211 BC. You'll notice that Saturn is in the same position that it will be in very, very soon, and that it was also in this summer when this silver jump started going. Keep in mind, gold's been going nuts the whole time too, okay? So gold first broke out and started really leading the path forward, and then silver followed. So this isn't just a silver story, it's a complete story on money and finance and value transfer between people and the global economy and more. It's at 1 degrees of Aries, and we see that Uranus here is at 1 degrees of Libra. So it's at that opposite side. This is the spring equinox. It's 1 day into now spring. If it's at 1 degree, that's the spring equinox point. This is the fall equinox point there. Or it's the vernal and the autumnal equinox points, okay? This is also important. This activation of the early degrees of Libra is also important. It's the oppositional point. I'll explain why in just a little bit. Okay, so that's obviously very important. Like you have these active when the first silver coins are struck. So clearly these degree points are charged. Now, if we go back in time, we have the Saturn-Neptune conjunction of 594 BC, which is roughly when electrum, the first coins, are being made. So electrum is a natural alloy of gold, silver. Usually gold's like 80%, silver's about 20%. It varies though. Sometimes there's silver-rich electrum, and then other times it's more gold-rich. Usually it's more gold-rich. And then trace amounts of copper, maybe a little bit of platinum. All these metals kind of like to hang out near each other. And so back at the very beginning of the Roman Republic, when all these city-states existed, and the Greeks and everything, right? They would go to the hills and sometimes just find these nuggets. And of course, goldsmithing goes all the way back to 4,000, 5,000 years ago or more. We have evidence of that in Varna, Bulgaria, the oldest known goldsmithing in the world's in Varna. Wonderful place. I recommend you check it out. Fantastic museum there if you're not aware of it and you want to go to Bulgaria and you want to check out the Black Sea. I recommend it. But they started to say, hey, let's actually take this stuff. It clearly has some value to it because it doesn't corrode and it's like really dense. Like there's something to it. It's easy to bang into a shape and like put a imprint of something on it. Maybe we can use these for coins. So they started making coins out of electrum. Now, evidence of electrum coins varies around the Europe and Mediterranean area. There's some that were found from like 620, 610 BC, 600, 590, 580. In these dates, you can't take 100% because they're kind of guesstimated. But generally, right around 600 BC is when the first monies were being developed. And it was no longer a trade system of I have a chicken and you have a cow. I have 20 chickens and you have a cow, and let's do a swap, okay? So look here. We have, where are they? There is Saturn, there is Neptune at 2 degrees of Aries. So this isn't 0 degrees, this isn't 1 degree, this is 2 degrees. But this is the first 2 degrees of the zodiac. And the rule of thumb with these conjunctions is that they're active for about 5, 10, 15 degrees within each other for the outer planets. And if we're talking about the 0 to 2 degree range, that's all super significant. But 0 degree would only make it even more so of like a fresh beginning. So here we have the first birth of money, 594 BC, with Saturn, Neptune conjunct. Saturn, the planet associated with structure and stability, and Neptune being this more imaginal place of who even had the idea of money. Like, it's such an abstract concept that you take this thing and you put value into this just physical thing, and you can give it to someone and they know what it's worth, right? It's all in the idea space and the information space. That's a perfect signification for these two. You have the birth of money. Okay, well, again, going back here, then you have the first denarius being minted. Look at this, again, 1 degree of Libra. Okay, well, let's go back. So we're adding data points here. If you haven't been following along, we have 4 data points right now that these degree markers in the sky are very important. We had the first birth of money with electrum coins in around 600 BC. We have the minting of the denarius, 211 BC. We have 2011 with the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries, the same degree point being activated now in 2026 with Saturn and Neptune. And, well, we had this price run up now with silver and gold. We have this price run up here in 2011 with silver and also gold. And let's go back. Silver has this very interesting price spike here. This was the Hunt brothers trying to corner the silver market. Okay, well, let's zoom in. This is peaking right there at late January of 1980. We see that it really started to get going around August of 79. And you can see that stays in this overall larger pattern going to September of 1980, okay? So we have this big spike there. Now, was there anything happening in the sky in 1980? Well, yeah, there was. We had the first conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, which is one of the most important conjunction cycles. We had the first conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn out of an Earth sign, because they attribute elements to certain degree ranges. If you know the zodiac, you know it, into an air sign in Libra. And specifically, we have December 31st, 1980 at 9 degrees of Libra. They meet up. They had a triple conjunction sequence. Then March 4th of 1981 at 8 degrees of Libra, they met up. And then July 24th, 1981, 5 degrees of Libra. So they're shifted off. Those conjunction cycles are off about 1 year from this, but they didn't occur over here or over there. They're effectively smack on with that. And what's opposite of the 0 degrees of Aries? It's 0 degrees of Libra. So we have this third outer planet cycle with Jupiter and Saturn, Saturn being the common element in almost all of these. 2010 is the exception with Jupiter-Uranus. But Jupiter-Saturn 1980 with their conjunction December 31st, but then going through July 21st, 1981 at 5 degrees of Libra, which is opposite the current points that we are discussing right now. So we see how this axis of the zodiac, of the early degrees of Aries and the early degrees of Libra are activated not just here, here, and here, but also going back to 211 BC and even going back to 600 BC with the conjunction 594. So really pretty incredible stuff. And I wanted to share that with you because if you look at this already and you know technical analysis a little bit, whatever, you know that this is a big pattern. And the bigger the pattern, it's a macro pattern, like a very big macro pattern, okay? The bigger the pattern, the longer the trend is going to be. This isn't going to be like some 2-week thing. I can't say anything definitive, of course. None of this is financial advice. This is not a financial advice video. This is a video with the history and then also just an understanding of how society is going to change going forward based off of how our money is going to change, our economy is going to change, global transfer of value is going to change. We have in 1964, the last 90% silver quarters, okay? You have 1971, Nixon takes us off of the gold standard. And then after that, you get this massive run up in silver, right? We go over here. Here's 1964, and here is 71. And look how the price of silver just went nuts after we got taken off that gold standard once our fiat money was taken away from the actual true money that exists for thousands of years. This 2,600 year long megacycle, which interestingly is exactly 1/10 of a precessional cycle of about 26,000 years. So there's some resonance there. And then we see during these key points, these angles and markers. And then you go back to the beginning of money, both with its first creation, electrum coins, and also the minting of the denarius. You see these degree points being activated again. So this is a big, like 50-year pattern that's going to have some big multi-year long expression going forward, and it's connected to a 2,600 year long megacycle. So all I can really say is that going forward, something big is going to happen. Like something big is happening right now, and it's only going to continue to get big. We can talk about silver a little bit more. I mean, silver is a precious metal, right? Historically, it's had a silver to gold ratio of 15 to 1. The Romans roughly were about 15 to 1 on that, and it's been 15 to 1 for thousands of years, roughly. I mean, there's some variance, of course, until recently when it was heavily suppressed. And we use in electronics, right? There's a huge amount of demand for it right now because of chips and batteries and solar panels and data centers and precision electronics and military technology like missiles and all this stuff. Everything requires high conductivity metals, all these circuit boards and such. So silver is in huge demand as a result of that. Gold is a better choice because it doesn't corrode, but it's also bloody expensive. So silver is like, yeah, you know what? We'll take a little bit of corrosion. If we seal it up right, it'll be fine. We'll take the trade-off, so they use silver instead. Copper, of course, is also very popular. It corrodes even more easily. So we see how this is connected to this technological revolution that we are in as well. And it's also one of these base monies that has existed. It is money. Like there wasn't really money before that. We had bartering, we had trade, and we also, on an island, Japan, had the yap stones, where they had these giant stones and someone would say, okay, I own that. And then they would trade it and now that person would say, I own that. And it was just like this fictional abstract unit of value, but they weren't actually exchanging hands or anything. So from the beginning, gold, silver, and some of these other metals have been used for actual money. And now that based off of this data, something appears to be changing there. That we're at the precipice of something really big and that we're maybe just seeing the beginning of this. Because these data points I've shown you, the 3 recent ones right now, 2011, 1980, and also going back, way back to 211 BC with the minting of the denarius, 564 BC with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, all of them speak to this history. So I wanted to bring that to your attention because I find that very, very interesting. It is a pattern that I've noticed. I haven't really seen many other people talk about it. I think I've mentioned it on a couple live streams now. I was also talking to Pam Gregory about this, sent her an email a few months ago showing her the chart of the denarius, and she's like, that is fascinating. Well, that was like back here, folks. So don't really have much more for you besides that. I'll take a couple questions and then I'm going to sign off. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. I'll take them from the chat, and I'll also If there's any questions in these super thanks, I will do those as well. And here's a good comment. If shit hits the fan, bottles of water and cans of beans will be worth way more than silver. Yeah, so good point. Water and food are the most important things. I'm not saying shit's going to hit the fan. Who knows? We never know. It's always good to be prepared. But there are different levels of value and worth. So you can't eat this, right? It's a good medium exchange right now, but you should have, if you have the land, plant a garden, right? Having that sort of food security is super, super important. Really, really good stuff. And thoughts on what the change might be? Well, I can speak to 10 years out maybe. I did a I Ching reading maybe like 6 months ago now for, and let's pull up our denarius here. Check that out. How cool is that? I did an I Ching reading about 6 months ago asking what's going to be the best store of value for the next 10 years. Because right now everything's in so much flux. I was like, I don't want to be working hard and I don't want my money to just disappear and evaporate. Hyperinflation is a real thing. A lot of people have had problems with that in the past. So I did that I Ching, and I don't remember precisely, I would have to look it up. I think I wrote it down somewhere. It's floating around. But the story of the I Ching was basically, it was like the guy is walking along the forest path. He steps on the tail of the tiger. And then there's like 6 different options. If you know the Chinese I Ching, there's different options. And the one that it presented was he steps on the tail of the tiger. But the tiger is fat and happy because it just had a meal. And it's like sleepy. And it doesn't swipe at him. So nothing happens. I was like, okay, what fits that definition? It's like the tiger is representative of power, the established order, something you don't want to mess with. And the villager, of course, is representative of like the standard, like the people, right? Like the everyday people. And he stepped on the tail of the tiger, but the tiger didn't really care. I was like, what fits that definition? I was like, okay, well, there's cryptocurrencies, but if that really takes over everything, people are going to be pissed. A lot of people are going to be pissed. The tiger is not going to be fat and happy if all of a sudden crypto takes everything over. So it's like, it's not cryptocurrency for this I Ching reading, right? I said best store value for the next 10 years. I was like, you know what? The tiger's gold because the central banks have a ton of gold, right? The gold price has been going nuts already. And it's always going to be worth something. Gold's never not going to be worthless. It's never going to be worthless. It's always going to be worth something. If silver went back to maybe historic silver to gold ratio of, let's say, 15-1, or more likely 40-1, 30-1, something like that, right? That's a huge appreciation over where it is now. It's close to like 65, 70 right now, somewhere in that zone. But it's not going to make the tiger angry because they still got all their gold. I was like, it's probably silver. It's probably silver. That's the I Ching reading. That was my interpretation. And so I thought that was enlightening, at least just to think about and contemplate. But I don't have an answer for you. But I think there's going to be a change in how we transfer money between each other and also between economies around the globe, and a recognition of what's actually important on this planet. And that goes beyond, of course, things like this. It goes beyond metals. It goes also into food and water and the health of our planet. So yes, finding the secrets. That is what I'm interested in. And random guy with beard, will the reset happen in 2026? Well, because this is such a long macro cycle, we are seeing something happen right now, at least with real money. Again, what I'm talking about with real money. But how long it's going to take this cycle to unfold, that's a good question. Now, if we look at the astrology, if we're going to lean on that as one tool of many, that would indicate 2032 is kind of when things are, this whole process from 2026 to 2032 is unfolding. We have a Saturn-Uranus conjunction 2032. We also have the longest eclipse of the century, August 2nd, 2027. That is a phenomenal eclipse. That's really crazy. In 2028, I believe we have an opposition that unfolds between, roughly 2028 should be, I can't remember exactly. Maybe it's Jupiter-Saturn opposition, somewhere around there. Either way, we have some cycles, but 2032 is the big kind of end date. So, but then on the real macro time scale, this is like probably a 50, 60 year thing. Like, we don't know. So be prepared for the super long term. That's what I can say. Think big. That's what I can kind of close with. Think big. Okay. Is the answer really 42, the secrets of the universe? I think so. There's something to the number 42. Anyone that tracks the number 42 is pretty plugged in. You notice things. So it may be 42. There's a lot of good energy with the number 42. How about copper? That could be it. More is needed. We don't have enough. Africa and South America will be the next developing world. We'll have it. We'd unto have enough. Listen, my people, listen. All these metals. I think this is really speaking to much more than just gold or just silver. It's like all the metals, because as there's naturally going to be as above, so below. So as you create more and more technology and go more into the digital realm, and soon you can live in virtual reality or whatever, right? As you go more and more into that, you're going to correspondingly need to have created greater and greater structuring in the physical world, which is what this is, because we're taking this metal out at, minor concentrations in ore rock, because we've already gotten all the good stuff. Silver is not mined by itself, really. Like 80% of silver is mined as a byproduct of mining other metals, which is why there's this huge, and there's structural deficits right now in the supply. Demand is much higher, and it's going to take time to bring on these old silver mines online, like many years. And so this supply and demand dynamic's not going to be solved anytime soon. It's probably going to take at least a few years, if not more. Copper and all the others are involved with this. So we take this stuff out of these very low grade ores, and then we have to fractionate, distill it, purify it. Then we take that, send it to someone. They're creating silicone chips, and then they're doing all this super micro stuff. Like we're creating more and more orderly structures within our physical reality in order to allow for these abstract, dimensionless digital realms. So yeah, all of this is, if you are building out that side of things and AI and everything, you're necessarily going to need to build out the physical structuring as well, though it's going to be in a back end that most people don't see. Though we are seeing 10% increase today, for example. So there are some ways to see this unfold in real time. Okay, let us get to our Super Thanks questions, and then we will wrap up. So the NARTube is asking, can I find your published research? I can't find any. Please put links in the description. Yeah, I only have a little bit, so I'm not really like a published guy. Take that for what it's worth, better for worse. I do have a paper that's published on UAV magnetometry. That's on my ResearchGate. I mean, I haven't really updated this. And I do have a research paper that I wrote up that I published on my own website, earthevolution.com/research. I believe that's the URL. You can look that up. That's on seismic variability across the seasons. So that's pretty interesting. But that's just like a tiny little research paper. It's not peer reviewed or anything. Neither is the UAV magnetometry one. That was presented at a conference, and actually there's some other seismic research I've done that was led by my mentor. I collected most of the data in the field work, but because he's written a bunch of papers, I was like, hey, you want to write it up and be the lead author, be my guest. So my name's on that. And then he sent that off and had it peer reviewed and everything. But yeah, I don't have like hundreds of papers that I've written. I would like to get a lot more written with time. And once I have my own geophysical observatories, I'm going to be collecting a lot of data. That's the plan, to assemble a team and to get a lot of research published so we have a better understanding of the Earth. But right now, it's all about just presenting this information via the YouTube channel. Todd Blewett with a very generous super thanks. Thank you so much. Amazing energy coming in. I agree. There are some amazing energies that are rolling in right now. We actually just had an M-class flare. I'm going to discuss this in tomorrow's video, but if you want to see this now while we're in the Q&A, may as well check it out. A 5.1 M-class flare, so a big explosion on the sun, effectively, is what we're talking about here. And we will see that with our 131 angstrom view from the side. So thank you very much for the very generous super thanks. Wishing you well, and yeah, much love. The only true currency is time and attention. Yes, that is very important, of course. So be mindful of your time, your attention, where you focus. Your energy is where energy flows. So you can talk about, for example, this, and let's say you have some and it's up 10% and you're like, woohoo, that's great. Like, it's good to see your wealth not diminish but actually grow. But to then spend your entire day just looking at a chart is wasting your time. So, celebrate your wins and keep grinding the sword on the grindstone. I'm all about it. When will I ship to Canada? No plans as of yet because it's quite difficult, but eventually, hopefully, maybe. So I'll do an official update if we do that. Thank you, Christy, very much. Reflections of a serial healer. I love your polymath brain. You are dead on about silver and so much more. Well, thank you very much for your super thanks and for your praise. Yeah, I just do my best to look at things from all the different angles and to chase down patterns. I already knew that 2010 had the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries, and we had that run up in 2010, 2011. I already know that Saturn-Neptune's happening right now. And then, of course, I knew about the minting of the denarius, 594 BC, and then I looked into 1980 and saw that we had that activation on the other side. It's like, okay, we got something here. I got to make a video. And then, I've known this information for a while now. I've talked about it on and off a little bit, but maybe not 2 years or 10 years or anything, but at least a year I've known about this. But then we see the price go nuts, confirming effectively that this is a pattern. Well, that's why we're making the video. So I could have made a video dedicated on this earlier, but there wouldn't have been an interest because it wasn't doing the thing yet. That's why I just touched on it on other channels. I think my recent interview with Dan Waits, we talk about that. So yeah, thank you so much. The Highland Space Weather Club. Have you heard about the other Boom Shakalaka song from Web Eye Candy? Yeah, I think that's uploaded to YouTube maybe. I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about. But I know that someone else made a Boom Shakalaka song that's on YouTube. Maybe that's who you're talking about. Maybe this is totally unrelated, but I'll look it up. Web Eye Candy. So I'm sure it'll be good. And do you think crystals will play any part? They're already playing a part. Every single chip is full of silicon dioxide crystals, right? Every single, they create these abnormalities effectively within the silicon wafer, which is then where these charges can exist and flip between 0 and 1. And so yeah, crystals, the crystals are structure. They are nature's way of building structures, crystal bonds. So yeah, crystals aren't just playing a tiny part, they are the thing. People think of crystals typically just like this, like, ooh, cool, crystal, right? And this is cool. But there are crystals all around us. Your body is made up of crystals. For example, proteins and fascia. There's semiconductor crystals all throughout the body. Your teeth, hydroxyapatite crystals. So crystals are everywhere. Water crystals. So yeah, good question. Thank you so much. Seems like any protests or scandals will not have an impact against corruption. The push towards a cyberpunk future will happen no matter what. Yeah, I don't know. There have been a lot of protests this year. The corruption seems unabated, but maybe the sun solves our problems. And maybe we actually just move to a society that is able to just leave this behind and the power base just erodes underneath them. I don't know, but we'll find out with time. We hope that we have like a solar punk future and not like a dystopian future. So we will see. Matthew, thank you for the super sticker. Thank you so much. And then Sun Jelson, thank you for the super thanks and happy holidays. So crystals are the thing. I agree. And if you are interested in all of this, maybe you're already doing this, you're not, then you could take this advice right here. But none of this video is financial advice. It's more of a financial exploration of the history of money and also how that may change going forward. So thank you all so much, everyone. Wishing each and every single one of you well. Please take care of yourselves. And I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye for now.